Well, hello, this is Brother D. Roy Cruz, your life applications officer. Um, I want to finish um, I want to finish my Culture Clash playlist. This is the finale right here. If I didn't get it all out in this one, then I'll include it, whatever else I have to say in other videos, and give them different names. But I believe I said most of what I want to say, but I want to do a commentary on everything I said in all four videos. I want you to understand where I'm going with this. I don't want to just be out in the wilderness yelling and waving, if you know what I mean. I want you to understand what I mean by culture clash. And I think you do know what I mean, because culture clash is talked about on the internet. It's talked about even in the news sometimes, and it's talked about um, on YouTube and other ways. But I'm addressing it from a not only a Christian standpoint, but from an American, to me, crisis standpoint. Um, Let me get right into it so I don't run out of time. Um, Culture is the soft end of the word cult. You notice that the word cult comes out of the word culture. So the word cult is when culture becomes extreme. Um, and if you look throughout history, you can see where they got the word, where they got the term, because every culture, and this is where the atheists should just sit down and shut up and let it go, because they're right, but they're right in a so what kind of way. So, okay, so religion kills. Um, let's say for example, you're right. Religion kills more than anything else. Okay, the only way that that means anything is if the more that you get away from religion, the more moral you become, and that's not the truth at all. Okay, we might have some people that lose it. Okay, but they're not part of the sexual revolution. They're not part of, all the codes of misconduct that go on in any society. But then they lose it. And I don't know. And how many Christians is that? Okay? And I can only speak for Christians because I do my homework on this. I can't speak for Muslims because all I know about Muslims is, okay, whatever. I mean, you know, even though I'm getting into this, I can only speak for what I understand. One thing I do understand is that America, going all the way back to the white folks that were uncomfortable with blacks being here. I'm not putting them in any good place whatsoever, trust me. But can you imagine the population of Muslims back then? Can you imagine if the if you can you imagine some of the, I don't know. This is not in my notes. I'm off the subject again, but can you imagine the so-called multiculturalism that's going on right now. Can you imagine this going on in the 1940s? It wouldn't be going on. It wouldn't be going on. But the word cult is when culture becomes extreme. And hello, atheists. Every culture, even yours, comes from beliefs that stem from basically religions. Okay? This is portrayed in the Bible when the Bible talks about atheism. Atheism in the Bible is someone that believes, is a person that believes in many gods, that there is no one true God. But whatever God you think is responsible for anything, or how many gods you think is responsible for anything, you're free to believe that. That's what atheism is in the Bible. And it's really not that much different than people trying to claim there is no God. Okay, why am I talking about atheism? Because we live in a country today that is becoming more and more anti-God. And it's these people who are trying to say that everybody, that is another video. I hate to be railroaded. I hate to be attacked, for something that's not my fault. I hate to be silenced when everybody else is talking. Okay? I hate to be criticized because of what somebody assumes about me instead of what somebody actually knows. Because Christianity is a big word, and there are so many people. I mean, there's millions or billions of people in this country that call themselves Christian. And I don't even think there's a million that really are. I don't know, maybe a million. I doubt it. Because I don't think organized denominations and religion understands what Christianity is. And I'm not even talking about the Protestants. Now, we would assume that the Protestants are the dry, organic Christians that were here first, and that's true. But they became something when they tried to start the Protestant religion or the Protestant denominations, which really don't exist anymore. But when they got in the organization, they messed it all up. I admit it started with them, but we say this country was never a Christian nation. Half of us say this country was never a Christian nation. The other group of us will claim that it's always been a Christian nation and it will always be. I don't agree with either one of y'all. I believe that we tried to let this be a Christian nation at one time, and I don't believe that it's going to remain anything even close to Christian even before this decade is over. I think that God is allowing the Christians to be moved out of the way so that you can open up your eyes and see what's really going on. You people that are so liberal, okay, so democratic that you just want to change everything. You're so democratic, you want to burn the flag. You people. God is going to move us out of the way so that you can open up your eyes, because as long as we're there, as long as we're allowed to open up our mouths and talk and preach, you're going to keep pinning the blame on us, Christians, instead of looking at the world around you and see how it's decaying. Not only up there at the ozone layer, but down here in everyday cultures of different peoples and their lifestyles. This world is falling apart. This earth, America is falling apart. It's dying from within. There's no love in America. Okay, there's no strong principle of love anymore. But the word cult is when culture becomes extreme. And it would have been an extreme Christian culture if we had done things like they've done in China and Japan, you know, in the modern day times, you know, punish people for being different. Now, I don't believe in punishing people for being different, but I do believe that there should be, I'll get to that in a second, an American way that we all have to live by. And we don't have that. I found out on the internet today. They couldn't even tell me. They could not answer my question. I'll get to that. They say that America is a melting pot. It's you know, should it be though? Should it be a melting pot? I don't know. You tell me. A diversified nation. I'm fine with that. I love the idea that everybody comes here and everybody benefits from being here. Everybody's happy to be together. But see, we're not together. That's what these videos are all about. We're not together. We're all here, but we're not together. We're all here. Okay? You know, breathing in each other's bad breath and catching each other's germs and sweating on each other, getting our sweat on each other. We have to sit so close to each other to make room on the bus. But we're not together, and everybody comes into this country, and there's people coming into this country, they're happy with that. They don't want to be together. You defend these people, but they don't even like you. You defend them, but they look down their noses at you. They come here and they breathe in your fresh air, and they you know, get a visa to do whatever they want to do in your country and all like this, and they take hold of, you know, acres of land just for their people. We do everything in our power to make them comfortable. But yet, you don't see them going out of their way to get to know you or anything about your culture when you've been living in this country all your life as a white man or a black man. They're not going out of their way to make friends with you and get to know you and say, hey, I'd like to know more about America. No. They want to come to America and they want to set everything up in a way so that they can live a culture that they walked away from here in America. I think once you walk away, you should be adapted to change. You walk out of Saudi Arabia, you should be adapted to change. Does Allah, because I'm speaking to the religion, I'm not even talking about God, I'm talking about the religion. Does Allah follow you to America? Does he? Does he follow you to America? Does he demand that you do certain things in America that you did in the Middle East? I don't believe he does. Okay? And I'm going to say it again. You go over, where's the black community in China? The so-called black community, that is, because I don't believe in the black community. But where is it? Where do black people get to have their own communities in China? There's plenty of black people in China, believe it or not. But where do they get to have? They don't get to have their own communities. Go to any Asian country or district. Black folks don't get to have their own communities. White folks don't get to have their own communities. But everybody coming here, they got their own space. We make them comfortable. We put them in these apartment complexes and in these neighborhoods where they can walk out of their home and they don't even have to worry about English because everybody in the neighborhood speaks their language. And you think that that's okay. It really isn't. It really isn't. So we're supposedly a melting pot. I don't think we should have ever been a melting pot. We're a diversified nation. Yes, I'm cool with that. A multi-religious nation, yes, that's true, but I believe that's a problem too. Because there's only one. There's only one, and there's only one foundation. But we got to make room for all these different things that don't benefit or edify. They just don't. There's only one. Why are we making room for 100 religions when there's really only one? But see, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to say, you're not allowed to. It would be bigotry of me to address that, right? You're not allowed to do that. But America is bigger than politics. It really is. Two parties are not enough. Then we have this assumption that there is a class to put everybody in, and it really isn't. That's kind of judgmental to think that, oh, well, all Christians are alike. We know where to put each one. All Muslims are alike. We know where to put each one. Okay? All Jews are alike. We know where to put each one. Either you're gay or you're straight. Or you're bisexual. Pick one of the three categories. There are people that aren't happy being gay. They're trying to find a way out of it. They're waiting on somebody to come to them and preach the gospel. What culture is that? What category is that? You don't have a category to put everybody in. You don't. Native Americans might be an exception. Because I'm trying to think, if the Native Americans aren't assembled in this country, what other country is there that has the higher population of Native Americans? And I don't know what population rate Native Americans are here in America. I'd like to know. But I take back what I said in the last video. A little bit of what I said. I still feel that Native Americans, just like black folks, should evolve. But I take back a little bit of the harshness that I said. They might be an exception because, black folks can go back to Africa. Okay? Muslims can go back to Saudi Arabia or Afghanistan, wherever they come from. Okay? Spanish people got a dozen Spanish nations that they can go back to. Okay? Asians can go back to China, Japan, Cambodia, Indonesia, wherever they are from, they can go back. But Native Americans, I don't know if they can go back anywhere. I don't know. I mean, what other country do they drill in? What other country has a population of Native Americans? If you know, talk to me. Answer my question. Talk to me. Okay? So I don't know. You can't. You might be able to send black folks back to Africa before you ever send where are you going to send a Native American? That's why they call them Native Americans, because they're actually the natives of this country. Okay? Now I assume that Native Americans are slightly tribal Asian, right? I'm assuming that these, I don't know the history, but what I've read, I'll keep that, I'll do more study on that before I quote it, but I do believe Native Americans came into this country from somewhere else. But once they came here from somewhere else, they were no longer a part of that because they were here for so many generations before America was even discovered, right? Talk to me. I could be wrong, okay? But where would you send if you got mad at a Native American and said go back to your country? What country is that? What is that? Okay, so they might be an exception. How much of America, however, will be sacrificed for each class? We got all these classes, all these categories. How much of America are you willing to give away to the Muslims, the Muslim population in this country? How much of America are you willing to give away to the black community to keep them happy, to keep them from yelling and screaming? How much of this nation, thank God for Donald Trump, how much of this nation are you willing to give to people that aren't even legal citizens of this country? What sacrifice are you willing to give to them to make them comfortable? And they don't even feel that it's necessary for them to become legal. You mean you need Donald Trump to come in and force you to become legal after all that time you've been here? What are we going to sacrifice for people like that? We're making sacrifices for all these people that are in this country. Do they all deserve such a huge sacrifice? To me, I'm going to say it again. Everybody should be living together. If you're going to give so many thousands, millions, let's say, acres of land, I'm just assuming all over the state of Pennsylvania, you might have, I don't know how many acres the Amish people have. I know it's a lot. Especially when you put it with different places of the states where they drill, okay, where they live. But let's say, would it be a bad thing if the Amish people had their culture, they had their land that they bought, but so many Americans were able to live on Amish property, and there were rules of the community, but if you weren't Amish, you didn't have to dress Amish. If you weren't Amish, you didn't have to go to Amish churches and do Amish things. But for the sake of the community, let's say you didn't bother, let's say, you move into an Amish community, you know that they only want their women to marry Amish men. Okay, it's important to their religion that they marry Amish men, and it's important to their culture that they don't go into town and do electronic things, okay? So you respect that. You respect the Amish people. But let's say, you're up here in Puxatawney, Pennsylvania, and we're running out of space, okay, for people to live. Why can't people live in the Amish community? As long as they respect the rights of the Amish. Why can't they live in the Amish community? But no, you can't. You cannot live in the Amish community. And this is what I mean when I say, you can't. How much are we willing to sacrifice before we run out of sacrifices? Before we run out of room? Before we actually have to honestly ask somebody to go back to Africa? Or ask somebody to go back to Russia, or ask somebody to go back to the Middle East, or ask somebody to go back to Spain, or whatever, because we ran out of room. Because we sacrificing for everybody instead of everybody being together is my whole point of this series. We're not together. We're breathing each other's germs, but we're not together. You go to hospitals, and you have these foreign people that keep you alive because that's what they're paid to do and that is their career. But they don't even necessarily like you. Okay? I remember a young kid that was in a hospital on his deathbed. And we were in there, and there was a lovely Asian doctor that was taking care of him. And at first I thought she had trouble speaking English. That's why she didn't respond to anybody. But she responded to the nurses. But the boy's mom is busy talking to this woman. And she just kept looking at her like, are you talking? Like, are you talking to me? She's thinking, you're my son's doctor. And we're looking at each other, well, maybe she don't speak English. Then a white nurse came in there. Oh, she speaks English better than a white woman. But she acted like she was deaf when the woman was asking this doctor about her son. Because she's doing her job. She don't have to like you. The woman was a white woman. Her son was biracial. Okay? That ticks a lot of people off. Wouldn't it be better to understand something about what should tick us off before we get ticked off? But there's people every day. They got to deal with you because of their career. And you know why a lot of people have careers to come over here from other countries? Because they want to make sure that if they come over here, they're in a position of power. They're in a position of safety. They're in a position where they're free to judge if they want to. They're free to judge. They're free to criticize if they want to. Because they make enough money to where they can judge, criticize, and then go back to their little wealthy little neighborhood and they ain't got to worry about what you think about it. What do you think about that? You don't care about that? It bugs me every day. Because I think we should be together. You come over into this country, you shouldn't be walking down the street with 100 Asian guys when you're Asian. Or 100 Asian men and women. There should be some white and blacks mixed in that group. This ain't Asia. This ain't China, Japan. You should be, you going out for a night out on a town or whatever. You shouldn't always be keeping it in your own. Because if you're in your own, then you go back to your own country and be in your own. But if you're going to be here, you need to be part of the mixed multitude. That's what this is. This is the mixed multitude. This is not any particular nation. This is the mixed multitude. And I don't care what part. Even if you do live near Chinatown, New York. Nobody Chinese should be hanging out with only Asians or only Chinese people. You should be hanging out with Japanese people, Spanish people, white people, and black people. And Arab people, for that matter. Native Americans, for that matter. Native Americans don't hang out with nobody. They're up there in the reservation. They don't want to have nothing to do with the public population. Same thing with the Amish. I think it's unfair. I think it's very non-American. That's what I think. So, is there is it fair that America will be split 100 ways like that? You got all these different people and their cultures on different sides of the street, different blocks, different communities, neighborhoods, different states, different cities. But yet we breathe each other's air. We sweat around each other and suck and get germs off of each other every day, but we're not together. We're not together. We're catching the cold and the flu off of each other, but we're not together. I think it's wrong. It's wrong. It is very un-American. Is there an American way, a platform culture, that is strictly American? I mean, I know we're the melting pot, so they say. And I know that we have all these different cultures and races in this country. Some of you are probably thinking, well, who cares, D? Who cares, D. Roy Cruz? Who cares? As long as they're happy, what's the big deal? Is there an American way, a platform culture that is strictly American? If I was to ask that to Donald Trump, he would tell me what it is. He would have like a small paragraph to explain to me what the American way is. If I asked a black person what the American way is, he'd probably say, boy, America is whatever you make it. If I asked the Asian person what the American way is, they probably act stupid. If I asked the Arab person what the American way is, depending on who I'm talking to, he would either shy out of the deal or either get up on his high horse and tell me what he really feels it should be. Okay, and I'm going to get to that in a second. So who will be the majority population then? Whose culture in 50 years from now will be the majority population? Even Muslims, many of them, are claiming, hoping, believing that eventually, as well as some white folks that complain about multiculturalism, they also believe that America will be majority Muslim within the next 50 years. Okay? But I believe a lot of Muslims that are peaceful, moderate, secular Muslims, like there should be a such thing in the first place. If you really have a God that's truly God, which you don't, but that's okay. Um, these so-called Muslims that are peaceful, moderate, secular Muslims, many of them, I'm sure, without asking, but watching their behavior and listening to what they've told other people, I'm pretty sure they're hoping and praying that America will be more Muslim, that the population of Islam will keep growing. The population of Muslims will continue to grow in this country until they don't care. They're not going to turn around and say, well, we really like America because we've already been around enough Muslims in our home state. We really want to come to America because we want to be around other people. And we want to see a population of people, and we want to see different cultures of people that are not necessarily Muslim. But when have you ever heard a Muslim say something like that? I highly doubt if that's their answer. Who will it be? It'll never be black folks. Okay? When I say majority population, I mean the majority of power. Like, they're everywhere. They're in our White House. They're in our school systems. They're in our government. They're in our FBI, our Homeland Security. They're everywhere. They're in position of power. They're the rich and very less the poor. That's what I mean by majority population. The population of power and population. Okay? It ain't gonna be black folks. There might be a lot of them, but they're not gonna be in any position of power. They're just gonna be like more roaches. Okay, showing up in a dirty house. As the house starts to fall apart and become more unsanitary, more roaches start to show up. That's the way it's going to be for black folks. But we'll never be the majority population or the population of any form of power. Maybe power of hate, but that's about it. Are you comfortable sharing this country with people that go home to a private room dedicated to Adolf Hitler? They go home after work and they go in that little room that's dust-free and they look at the big giant picture of Hitler on the wall and they say, "Hell, Hitler." Comfortable with people like that? You comfortable with the idea that people like that live around you? Huh? I know some people are. They've already told me they are. They thought Hitler was cool. Okay. My bad breath, it the funkiest it can ever get is cool. Okay. My poop don't smell that bad either. All right. Are you comfortable sharing this country with people that believe everyone is expendable except Orthodox Jews? Are you comfortable with sharing this country with people that think that Allah is giving the entire world to their race, to their religion, to their culture? And they make plans, cover secrets, and lie to all outsiders to help make this happen. And that outsiders are expendable. And you know who I'm talking about. Are you comfortable knowing that people that you protect and you fight for their rights and you vote for them that they have their way in this country? Are you comfortable knowing that they think like that? That they raise their kids like that? What about this one? What about this group that hates white Americans? For some reason, they just hate white Americans. They don't hate nobody like they hate white Americans. They hate white Americans the most, and then every light white or tan colored person that ain't them, or live better lives than them, or have better positive lifestyles than them. You know who I'm talking about. Are you comfortable with letting these people, or should I say, kissing these people's behind? Okay? And always babying them about everything. Are you comfortable with that? What about those that hate everybody except whites and Jews, so they say, and use crime and terror at times to make a statement? You know who I'm talking about. Are you comfortable that that might continue to go on while you trying to get Black Lives Matter more peaceful? You got to deal with these monkeys too. What about people that have a sex cult, a bizarre, twisted sex cult? And they only respect those that bow to them, or should I say, treat them as victims all the time. Treat them like they're the most innocent people on this planet and in this country. And they will privately abuse those who don't agree with them or are offended by their lifestyle or have any conflict with their cult, who also are not satisfied with simply getting along with anybody, but satisfied with simply changing America, putting pressure on our government. They want your children. You think they're so innocent, but they want your little boys and your little girls. They want to get them away from the normal Adam and Eve style of sexuality and get them into this cult of twisting the whole thing around. Because that's what it takes to make them more comfortable and more happy. You think it's just all about them getting rights. But no, it's bigger than that for them. It's bigger than that. I know, because I was one that didn't judge, okay, until I was abused by it. Okay? So I know. You're not going to change my mind in any way. And this has been dawning on me too. Speaking of that, why can't Muslim children born in America choose their own faith or religion? I was reading an article today online about Muslims. And, you know, this Muslim wanted to defend, he felt that this white guy asked a retarded question about Muslims. Was asking retarded questions about Muslims, and he decided to chime in, and he tried to tell his audience that first of all, we're not, you know, first of all he was trying to say all Muslims are born here, and all Muslims are born all Muslims are born here, and all Muslims are Americans in this country. And I disagree with that. I believe there's a lot of illegal immigrants here that are Muslim. And I believe that there's just as many Muslims that come here at a ripe old age. They're not all born here, okay? And I do believe that the Muslims that are coming in here that weren't born in this country have connections with those born in this country. That's another reason why I don't trust them so much. I don't have no connections with Africans. I don't know a single African. Okay? I don't have connections with Africans. Not that Africans would do you any harm like these knuckleheads would, but how many black people do you know that that can tell you anything about Africa that they didn't get offline. They were actually there. Not that many. But notice, I have 2 daughters. None of my kids, except one of them, I have 4 kids, 2 stepkids and 2 biologicals. My stepson is a Christian, and him and his wife. But my stepdaughter and my 2 biological daughters, they're not Christians. One of them's even claiming to be an atheist. Okay? But these Muslims, their kids never ever stray from the faith. Is it because the faith is so wonderful, the religion is so wonderful, and the faith is so wonderful, and Allah is so wonderful? Or is it because of some other reason that these kids never ever? See, there's a guy on YouTube called Introverted Smiles. I think it's Smiles. Introverted Smiles, I think. And he was a former Muslim. He was born in the Middle East. He came here in a Muslim family, and he got so angry at Islam it caused him to eventually become an atheist. Okay, now he judges all religion because his religion screwed up. That's where me and him don't agree. But you can't make him lie. He doesn't lie about Islam and what it's all about. He doesn't lie about being a Muslim and what Muslims believe and where their heart is in this country. Okay? But their kids, this kid had to fight his way out of being, a Muslim. And I tell you what, he got threats. He'll tell you he got threats from his fellow Muslim buddies that he went to college with and everything for leaving the so-called faith. Okay? You don't pay attention to this stuff, but this stuff is